So today I'm going to be doing this look. It is a, let's say, heat inspired look. Basically my lovely friend had sent me over some products from Aldi. I do have Aldi here, but I can never seem to get a hold of these products. And one half of my face is high-end makeup, high-end eyeshadow, high-end blush, bronzer, that kind of thing. And the other half of my face is all Aldi brand Lacura makeup. So what side do you think is which? Do you think it is obviously noticeable at this stage? What side is what? What do you think? I will give you a little kind of 5-second countdown, and I'm gonna ask people on Instagram as well and find out what they think. Do you think that side A is Aldi brand, or do you think that side B is Aldi brand? Which one do you think is which? Now that you've all put your bets on, I will continue this video, and if you are interested in seeing how to create this and which is which, then please keep watching. So my lovely friend Amy Rach, I will put her channel up here somewhere, I'll be able to link it, sent me over a whole bunch of stuff that I just was never seeing in my Aldi. Now, I've obviously just done a whole makeup declutter. If you haven't seen those videos, go and see them. And you'll be thinking, you don't need any more makeup. But this lovely, lovely lady had sent me these things because we'd been speaking about them, and she's like, do you not see them in your Aldi? I was like, I've never seen anything like this in my Aldi. We get the odd bits and bobs, but I've got loads of Aldis round about me, and I never ever see makeup palettes or anything like that in my Aldi. But I thought it would be very, very interesting to do a little review, and you will see whether it lives up to the high-end products. I own quite a few of the high-end versions of the products she sent, so let's have a look at what she sent me and then I will get on. I have already put a base on. I'm looking very, very pale today. It's very grey outside, you know, summer. But we're gonna bronze up. We're gonna help my pale face with that. So this is the lovely bag of goodies that she sent me. It's in a very rustly bag, so I'm going to take it all out first because otherwise this could get annoying. So she sent me this Naturals Intense from Lacura. Now, even looking at the package on the outside, you can tell what it's supposed to be, can't you? I do not own the full size Heat Naked palette, but I do own the Naked Heat Petite palette, which I adore. I just cannot get enough of this little palette. I take it everywhere with me if I'm going traveling. The colours in it are exactly the kind of shades that I use. I constantly use it all the time, actually getting really good use out of it since I bought it. The only thing is, this doesn't have any shimmers in it. If I show you the Lacura one, which by the way comes with a brush very, very similar to that of the Naked brush that I think came with the Naked 2 and 3. My first Naked palette came with a double-ended eyeliner pencil, and then the other two came with brushes, which is almost exactly the same as this. And here is the colour range for the Lacura Naturals Intense. Definitely very, very similar. The packaging is nigh on identical to the second and the third Heat palettes, and there are some shimmers in this palette along with lots of mattes. So I'm going to try and do a look the same on each eye, and we'll see if they come out the same. My only fear is that I'm not going to have a shimmer to put on, so I might have to tweak that slightly for the more high-end one. The second item that Amy sent me over was the Aloha bronzer from Lacura. Now, could these be any more similar? I'm sure you've seen videos like this before talking about the Aldi brand makeup being so similar. But I actually, now that I'm seeing it, can't quite get over just how similar the packaging is. The only thing I did notice was, I thought, obviously the Aloha one is a pink brush and the Hoola bronzer has a blue brush. I've never taken mine out of my packet because I just don't use it. But the only thing I would say is that the Aloha brush, I think, feels a little bit softer. Not that I use the brush, but I feel like it's a little bit more fluffy and a bit more sturdy some people might think that's a bad thing when it being a bit splayed, but I do feel like it's a lot softer, the Aloha one. Now this one here is Benefits Hula, and this one here is the Aloha. You can see there is a definite difference in colour. The Hula one is much more kind of tan, I would say, darker, a bit more bronzed. This one is bronzed, but I would say maybe it has a slight pink undertone, but not quite as deep and dark as you can see. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out, especially because I've got very fair skin, but I love this bronzer, so we'll see. This might be more like the, is it Hula Light? Hula Light, maybe? It might be like that. Next up, she sent me a dupe for the Orgasm Blusher from NARS. This is it here. This is the kind of regular size, the 4.5 gram size. Now, the packaging is nigh on identical to that of NARS or ELF even. ELF have been doing this packaging for a long time, so it's not like they're the first people to ever dupe this kind of packaging. I would say it doesn't look bad when I'm looking at it. It kind of looks quite similar. Hold on. I think looking at them side by side, the NARS is definitely more pink. I would say the Aldi one is more of a peachy tone. It's definitely pink though. Oh look, that's better, you can see it there. So it's definitely still that pink gold. I think it's because the gold in this is so prominent. When you put it forward, it looks gold, gold, gold. Whereas that doesn't really happen with the NARS one. But if I turn it to the side, you can see actually, it's quite a good match pink toned wise. You see? So, looking like that, this looks darker, but actually, they're probably quite similar. To look at in the pan, the NARS is definitely more pink and this is more peach. So we'll see how we got on with these two. Okay, so I've zoomed you in a little bit now, and please ignore the whiskers because I know they're there, but they're not quite long enough to be filled out yet, and I don't like shaving them, so I apologise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a kind of rose golden base down to start this off. I think it'll help the shadows stick a little bit better. But I am going to use a high end against a kind of more low end product or a drugstore product. One that I've already said before, I think are really good dupes for each other. So I'm going to start off by doing that. I'm not going to tell you which eye I'm putting which on. I'm going to try my best not to slip up and let you know. And then I'm going to tell you at the end which side is which. Now, the other thing I should probably mention is I am going to use separate brushes for each eye because I don't want, if let's say one is more pigmented than the other, then that's seeming like a kind of unfair advantage for whatever shadow, you know. So I'm just going to take this kind of, do we say beige colour? It's certainly not one of the warmer colours in the palette. It's more of a neutral one, but I always find if you start off with this kind of colour in the crease, that works quite well. As I say, it's quite difficult to do this without kind of actually saying what I'm using. So we're just starting off with somewhat of a transitioning colour, as people say, which I kind of hate. I don't, you know when people do like really bright looks, almost multicolour type looks, and then they put like a beige transition colour, then go over the top of it with bright purple or something. I've never quite understood why you would bother. Okay. That looks pretty similar, doesn't it? So I'm just going to deepen this up a little bit with a darker, I would say a darker version of the initial one. But one thing I have to say for the Lacura Aldi palette is it's more erring on that red side than orange that I would say is in the Heat palette. There's not a definite like bright orange in the Lacura one, so I'm gonna have to try and err away from that, because otherwise you would be able to tell straight away what was what. Okay, so at this stage I don't think that looks too bad. Although, I'm gonna deepen this up a bit. I'm gonna darken things up, I think, in the crease. Make it a little bit more interesting. Let's make it a little bit more than just a daytime look. And I'm just gonna pop this right in here to really deepen that up. This is getting so complicated, trying to make sure that I'm using the right brushes and the right palette. Okay, so I'm gonna bring some more darkness across the lash line, just to give my lashes a little bit more oomph and impact. So let's try that. I'm just gonna add a little bit of a lighter colour, but not necessarily a highlight. I just want to brighten this area here. Now when I'm looking in the camera, I think I can see slight differences. You probably will be able to as well. But when I'm looking in my mirror, just at my eyes, I can barely see any difference in both these eyes. Like, I'm really struggling to find much difference in them at all. I'm then gonna, as I say, tight line in here. I'm gonna use the same on both sides because I don't have an Aldi alternative for this. So okay, so I have tight lined in here, but also just ran a tiny bit on the top half of my lash line as well and smudged that out. So that is the same eye pencil on each side. There was nothing I could do about that. I'm gonna put some shimmer now because I don't have shimmer in one of my palettes. I'm gonna use something else to just kind of dupe it, and we'll see how that goes. So I think I've done everything that I want to do to the lid. I'm now going to go on to underneath. I'm just going to use kind of very similar colours smoked out, so I'm not going to kind of bore you with all of that, but I will just run it underneath kind of similar. I'm actually really impressed and kind of, I don't know, we'll see. Wow, it's so difficult not to just automatically go back and forth like that. Okay, right, so I'm then gonna take, just for my kind of inner highlight here, the same shadow for both sides again, because it's just something I want to add in. A bit of shimmery sparkle, so I will let you know what that is at the end as well. And now we're just going to put lashings and lashings of mascara. Okay, so looking at it, I've came out a wee bit for you now, but on the surface of it, I don't think that really this looks terribly different on either side. I'm not sure you'd be able to tell. Certainly looking at it in a mirror, close up, there are slight differences. I can say that. I think if you're looking at it close up, there might be kind of, oh, that doesn't look quite right. But to be honest with you, I don't think any layman person who doesn't do makeup, even people that do makeup, would think you've got two different eyeshadow palettes on your eyes. I think they might think you've gone a little bit heavier on one side than the other side. maybe you've put a little bit more shimmer on this side, you've not done it evenly. But I don't think they would think for a second that one side is a palette that would cost you, you know, 40 quid and the other side is a palette from Aldi. I think I'm really quite impressed actually at how it's came out. As I said, I just ran some of the kind of similar colours from the top onto the bottom, and I've put mascara on and put a little bit of eyeliner on the top and smudged it out. So nothing too remarkable for the rest of it. I'm now going to go on to do the bronzer and the blush. I did put a little bit of something through my eyebrows as well actually, I should probably mention that too. But I'm going to go on and do the bronzer and the blush now, and we'll see how we get on with that. I'm going to continue to keep one side higher end and the other side the Aldi brand. I will continue to use different brushes so that I don't mix up the products, and we'll go from here and see how we go. Okay, so bronzer. I like to go relatively heavy on the bronzer. If it deems for it, if it's winter then I probably won't touch it, but in the summertime I like quite a lot of bronzer. I also think it's a little bit bright at the moment, hold on. That's better. So I like to go quite heavy on the bronzer, and I like to be fairly liberal with it. I like it to look like I actually have just been hit with the sun, as opposed to really kind of contouring a heck of a lot. And I bring it down my big old moon face too. But I try and do that whole, remember like people used to do the E3 thing? Yeah, I can try and do that kind of. Quite difficult to do half your face. Okay, so that's one side. I think that looks okay. And now I don't have the exact same brush to use on the other side, so we're just using a big kind of fluffy complexion brush from e.l.f. for the other side. So it's still nice and big and fluffy though, so. Right, so that's the bronzer. Now, I don't think, again, looking in the mirror rather than looking at the camera, I don't think that you would be able to tell these are particularly different products. There's a possibility that one side is a bit more even in application, but I wouldn't say, that could have been because I used a different brush. Colour is pretty close. Again, on the camera I don't think it will be as noticeable as it is in real life when I'm looking in the mirror, but I wouldn't say the colour is particularly off. Yeah, so that's pretty good, isn't it? Again, two different brushes for two different blushes because I don't want to get the products mixed up. We'll start with this side. Hope you can see this. Yeah, I think you can actually. So, because these blushes have a gold kind of shimmer through them, a bit of a, I would say a bit of a highlight in themselves, I am going to bring it up round my temple again because it gives a really nice glow to the skin with a bronzer as well. It goes quite well, I think. So I don't use like straight out into here and put blusher up. I usually use it once I've used most of it, kind of blown out on the skin. So that is one side. And now this side. Well, I would say this one isn't quite as pink. Again, I'm going to take it up here because it has golden kind of highlight in it anyway, so I don't want it to be too dissimilar. That's not too bad now that I'm looking at it on the front. I don't think this is, it's just not the same. It's much more golden, much more of a golden kind of highlight effect as opposed to a pink toned blush. Certainly looking in the mirror in real life, this one is one of the ones that doesn't, it's not, I think it would be more detectable that you've got two different products on. And again, because I don't have any kind of Aldi lippy, I don't think it's going to make a heck of a bit of difference what I put on my lips. So I'm just going to put this one on, kind of nude orange. Alright, so that's the finished look. I don't know, I hope you can kind of see. What do you think? Do you think you could tell? Do you know what side is what? Alright, so this side is the more expensive side and this side is the Aldi side, the Lacura side. Now, I have to say, I am really impressed with these eyeshadows. I think they've worked very well. From the Naked Heat palette, the Heat Petite palette, I used every single colour with the exception of the orange one, which is called Wild Thing. I didn't use that one for the very simple reason I don't think that the Lacura palette has that bright orange. It's very similar. There's other ones here that I could easily dupe. So up here, I think this is definitely very, the first kind of two are identical almost. This third one in, I would say that Hot Spell is a little bit more orange, but a mixture of these two is going to give you that. This one here, as I say, Wild Thing, the orange one, it just doesn't really have a natural dupe, but Heist is very similar to the likes of Cerise and Brick. They're not that like far away from each other, and again, Strike is quite easily likened to, is it Merlot? Merlot and a little bit of Plum. You could kind of mix those together and get, I mean, like those two straight up just look like they're straight out that palette. There's a lot of good ones in there, and obviously in this one you're getting shimmers as well. Now the shimmer that I used on my eye for this side was Rose Quartz and a little bit of Blaze. I think the shimmer on this side is better, but the funny thing is about that, it's one of those Essence ones, the Essence Melted Chrome eyeshadow, and they cost buttons. They are like a couple of quid for the eyeshadow. They're not overly expensive, so you don't need to have like super duper high-end stuff for it to look good. Also on the inner corner here, I used the same shadow on both sides, and again, that was the other Melted Chrome that I've got from Essence in, is it Taupe or something? Zinc About You. So that's what I used in the inner corner. I would say that the Lacura ones aren't quite as blendable. They're not as soft and as creamy as the Urban Decay, but you're paying a little bit more money. You bloody well expect them to be a bit better. They are a little bit more powdery and they take a slight little bit more work. But for the end result, I mean, really, if you do it in a little bit of patience, if you could be bothered, then you're gonna get the same look. I don't think it really would take too much at all to manage to get the same look as I've just shown you. With regards to the face products, I think the bronzers, although look different colours in the palette, are so similar. So similar. And Hoola is one of my all-time favourite bronzers, and I would have absolutely no qualms about using that Lacura bronzer in the same manner that I have used my Hoola. The NARS Orgasm, now I have to say, I think that is totally different. NARS, as you can see here, is much more pink. The Lacura one is very golden. Now, I'm not saying I dislike that. I think over the top of a bronzer in the summer, very nice, but it's certainly not what I would use for a blush. It's much more of a highlight, and the NARS does have the golden highlight in it, but this is just like solid gold to me. This is just all golden highlight, maybe a bit more peach, whereas the NARS is definitely more pink, that flush of pink, and I really enjoy that and I really like that. I actually think that side of my face is a little bit more lifted because I've got that kind of pink bit here, as opposed to this all being a kind of peach tone, if you can see what I mean. I don't know. I just applied whatever to my lips because it didn't really matter because I didn't have anything to gauge it against. But I hope this was useful, and thank you so much, Amy, for sending me this stuff. That was so nice of you and actually very interesting. So hopefully this is useful to you. I really hope you enjoyed watching it, and maybe you'll get down to Aldi and see if you can pick some of this stuff up. I have not been lucky. But it was very kind of Amy to send it to me, and I'm really thankful for that. And I think that's really good. I think that's really quite fantastic that you could compare it against the actual Urban Decay stuff, and I don't think there's that big a difference. I think it looks really good. So I'm going to thank you again for watching. If you are returning, then thank you very much for coming back. And if you want to follow me over on Instagram, on Twitter, you can see the stuff flying about below. I have recently done a wardrobe declutter as well, so if you fancy anything like that, if you kind of like clearing out videos, then I will link stuff for that as well. But otherwise, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thanks again. I'll see you again soon. Bye.